What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Patros Podcast, where we're embracing healthy masculinity. My name is Allan, and this is a ministry of Man Up. And we're going through a series, as you know, called Masculinity Through the Bible, Jonah the Reluctant Leader. And as many of us men, myself included, sometimes are reluctant to lead, we thought, let's go through a study of one of the most notorious reluctant leaders, Jonah himself. And Jeff, who do we have with us today?
Well, before I introduce our illustrious guest, one thing I'm not reluctant to do is to give a little
IO, baby.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's going to be about 10 minutes of Ohio State football. Allan, I'm sorry.
There's two things that they love, Jesus and Ohio.
Ohio State football.
That's true. It is.
No, Chris Dotson, welcome to the Patros Podcast. You are the executive pastor at South Tampa Fellowship.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're just grateful that you're here today. Less importantly, but also very interestingly, you are an Ohio State fan. We have to talk about this.
Yeah,
I've been telling people, so I was born and raised in Ohio.
So born and raised the winner.
Dayton. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
D-Town.
Dayton, Ohio. Did not go to Ohio State, but most of Ohio doesn't go to Ohio State, but we're still Buckeyes.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, man, I love the Buckeyes for a long time. I've been telling people that since we won, everything I do the next year is as a national champion. And
so I've introduced you as national champion.
So
Like Starbucks order when they ask for your name.
If I'm preaching a sermon on Sunday morning, like I'm doing it as a national champion. Like if I'm going to Starbucks and ordering like a cold brew, hey, can I get that cold brew? But it's as a national champion. And
that's his name on the order.
I feel like this is just a continuation of that.
Bro, that's
perfect. And so
how great would that be? The baristas like
national champion.
Champion.
You're
exactly. Is it grande cold brew for the national champion in the room? Is there anybody here? It's just me. What did you do? Did you go to school? No. Did you work with a team? No. Do you know any? No.
I just am.
I just am a huge fan.
And I think that my inability to consume any kind of food 3 hours before the game and during the game did something intrinsically in the guys' minds. Like they knew I was fasting.
You were fasting for them, yeah.
I remember during the Rose Bowl, I was with my in-laws and we did a low country boil that night, and because it was New Year's Eve or whatever, and everyone's just chowing down shrimp and sauce, all the things, and I'm a eater. Like I can do it, right? I can with the best of them, and I'm not eating a thing. And my father-in-law, he's a big Clemson fan, so his day was over. Yeah. It had been over, and we were up like 31-0, and I'm still like I'm tense. I'm like, we're gonna find a way to give it up. And he looks at me and goes, "Hey, big guy, I think you can have a couple pieces of shrimp and it'll be okay." I think it'll be okay. So
where'd you adopt that ritual?
I wish it wasn't a ritual. My body doesn't let me eat, bro.
No way.
I'm like, I should not let my emotional
connection
this is probably a different
to the team.
podcast.
This is a different podcast.
And I think this is probably a safe place.
We'll bring a therapist
I should
in.
not let my emotions be contingent upon like the activity of like some young guys in their like early 20s playing football.
Yeah.
But it is, and that's where it is. And my wife reminds me of how unhealthy that is every football season. But you know what? She's not a national champion.
Sometimes to be a national champion, you have to be unhealthy.
You got to do it. And it's one of those, it's definitely going to be like, once you do it once, it becomes superstitious. So you're like,
it worked.
I didn't do it during the Tennessee game, so I can't do it during the Notre game. I'm not going to do it during Texas, and I'm sure as heck not going to do it during Notre Dame. So, we got to kick with it.
So I will tell you, I cannot watch an Ohio State game with anyone else. I like friends.
Do you become a different person?
And I don't become a different person, but
the real you comes out.
So the way that he handles his nerves,
by
not eating. I handle it by my phone is off.
Mm-hmm.
I learned once that even though my phone is off, somehow my watch can get the message, and I was like, dang it, because like my feed is a little slower than other people, and I don't need to know when Michigan scored, and they're now telling me like, suck it.
You
Jeff,
said you said the name.
Yeah.
Well, I can do that
because you're national champion.
Because
now.
I'm national champion, so I can do what I want.
You don't have to say Team Up North anymore.
Team Up North. So I can't. I watch it myself. I turn my phone off. I don't want to hear from because my friends, they know, and so they're just going to berate me anytime something bad happens. And if nothing happens, then my Ohio State friends, that when something good, they'll tell me, and I don't want to like interact with them. Just let me experience. I don't want to know.
Do your kids get access to dad? Is my question during these games.
I mean,
Or are you putting Patros to the side?
Well, I mean, I'm physically there. I'm mentally. I'm at the Rose Bowl.
So you're no longer the priest of your home for a couple of hours.
Yeah, the best kind of game for me is like an 8 p.m. game, like post bedtime for my kids. I put those toddlers to bed and I can lock in. I'll tell you, Penn State every year is tough because it's a big noon kickoff. It's
always a big noon kickoff.
And I'm like, my kids are like, it's like we want to watch
Bluey.
We want to watch Octonauts on Bluey, and I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm sorry.
Not your world.
And then eventually by halftime, I'm sitting here on my phone like this, watching it, and my kids are watching Bluey up on TV. So we figured that out.
Listen, the Penn State game this year was during playoffs. My son's playing football, and I was coaching him. And I'm like,
which game are you locked in on?
This is not good. Like, I have a choice to make. Be with my son or watch my team. And so I had grandma. This is still a thing. You can digitally record games still if you have Spectrum, apparently. Who knew? Mm-hmm. So she digitally recorded it for me. And my wife's like, how are you going to, like, I'm like, I'm not taking my phone.
You're one of those people?
I'm not wearing my watch. And
that if you rewatch it, you don't want to know anything that happened.
Oh
like,
my gosh,
you have to go through the emotional roller coaster.
No, and I'm watching the commercials too, by the way.
No way.
No, I don't watch the commercials. I'm just kidding.
Okay, now I'm starting to think
I do have to watch like the whole thing. I need to watch the pregame. I need to watch the whole thing. I'm
starting to think the state of the organization is at risk.
I need to watch the halftime show in its full like glory, unless it's terrible, and then I'm just like, you got to go to the bathroom for it.
As a pastor, you learn there's something so powerful when someone next to you says, "Hey, me too." And I feel like I'm feeling that right now. Like, I thought I was crazy. My wife has made me feel like I'm crazy. And I'm looking at you.
You have a bro.
I'm not.
You have a bro.
Hey, we're in this together.
We're together. All right, we'll stop talking about Ohio State, but it's probably going to come back.
We'll go ahead and timestamp it to like, hey, if you don't care about any of this.
You can go ahead, skip the next 7 minutes.
If you want, though, for the next hour after the podcast, we're going to talk about all of our thoughts about next year.
We'll have an after party.
New coaching staff updates.
A lot of coaching. There's a lot to talk about.
There's going to be like a Patros.
Start our own podcast. I just
like a spinoff.
Yeah, this will be a spinoff. Because I get my news usually from Austin Ward and Jeremy Birmingham, and they give me, all the behind the scenes.
I'm a Cleveland.com guy. Steven Means.
Okay, yeah.
You guys have such a problem that you said you were going to stop and you didn't.
Yeah, sorry. No, we're done. We're done.
Okay, really this time. We promise. You grew up in Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about your family, man. What's your background?
Yeah.
So by the way, if you're stumbling on the podcast,
he just goes into Ohio State.
If you're going into the podcast, we are actually going to talk about Jonah today, the reluctant leader. We are in lesson 9 of a 10-part series, and so we are going to get to that. So excuse us for fawning over fandom right now for Ohio State Buckeyes. But we want to get to know you just a little bit. So, what's your story?
Yeah. So grew up in Ohio. Moved to Florida as a kid. I got transferred for work, so the whole family came down, and then did basically middle school. I like to say like my childhood was in Ohio, so like that's early years, elementary, then teenage years, that kind of thing was Florida. So grew up in the Tampa area, in middle school, high school. I went off to school in Tennessee for my undergrad. A small little private Christian school there called Lee University. I got connected to that playing sports, so I ran cross country and track there for a year, and it was there that I met my wife and started working in ministry, like church contexts, and have been doing that ever since. Okay. So currently live in Tampa now, and got
family.
My wife Rachel, 10.5 years. 2 kids, 5.5-year-old, 3-year-old, and then 1 on the way.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Add to the mix, man. Yeah, excited.
Yeah, that's fun. How did you come to know the Lord? You grew up in kind of that environment, but was there...
Yeah. So I grew up in a pretty traditionally Christian family, a culturally Christian family, you know. So we went to church, and so this is the expectations, this is who we are kind of thing. Classic story of a lot of people that grew up in that situation.
For sure.
Gave my life to Jesus as a 17-year-old, and it was at the same. It was a kind of a simultaneous moment of feeling called into a relationship with God, but also called into like full-time ministry as well.
Gotcha.
So that at 17 in my life, it just like it shifted from that point forward. Right, obviously not perfection, but started to actually look at my life and my decisions, and started to like realize that I had to submit myself to like Jesus. And so a lot changed my senior year of high school. It affected where I went to school from, going to a Christian school that was purposeful to study biblical theology and biblical studies.
Yeah.
So that all happened when I was 17.
So before 17, did you have the traditional, like I was in a Christian home, but I was kind of apathetic to the gospel? And then at 17, I was like passionate, or was it
Christian home and I was like
rebellious?
I was a closet atheist.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
so stuff happened with my parents when I was 14,
Okay.
13, 14. They just turned me off to God.
Gotcha.
Right? And I basically was still going through the motions, being a good kid, going to church with my family when they asked me to go.
So respectful.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And being a kid, I mean, right? Like I'm making decisions I shouldn't make, but really, it's like I'm the kid who's trying to convince other kids that like what they believe is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm like,
So you're at youth group asking questions that lead
I'm
a
like
certain direction.
Fiend in like youth group.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm the guy that like we're talking
Your youth
about.
pastor's like, oh gosh, he showed up
Yeah.
again.
He's here, right? Like, and so God bless some of those youth leaders. I have relationships with them till today, man. But like, it was one
I
of those
even
where,
turned some of them off.
yeah,
today.
bro. I mean, it's like, a couple of them are still working on their. I'm counseling them. So, no. I mean, I was the guy that, like, to be quite honest, it was like if I could convince you that you were wrong, it showed me that I was right. That was the thing. And so I was that kid, school, whatever. So.
Like you were asking questions that you knew they couldn't answer.
So I'm like,
that.
oh, you go to like you like you're a Christian, so like, that we don't have the original copies of like the books of the Bible.
Yeah.
So how do you know like what you're reading is
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. Like I'm reading like Bart Ehrman as like a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So don't believe it all.
Yeah,
And
so then
so
from there,
going into so basically I got my parents made me go to a church camp that I was totally fine to go to because there'd be friends there. And there'd be girls there, and there'd be sports
fun,
there.
food,
I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, it's whatever. And again, I'm like a closet. Like no one, I'm not telling church people this, right?
Yeah.
So everyone there thinks like, oh, this is so and so's kid, and they go to church, and assuming whatever. And I got people that are asking me, it's going to senior year, like, hey, where are you going to school? What are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm so lost at this point in my life, don't know what to do. At one point, I wanted to go to Baylor University to study archaeology because I watched Indiana Jones, and I was like, I could do that.
That's
like,
fire.
That sounds great, right? I mean, I have no clue what I'm doing in life, right?
I could be an archaeologist.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's
Indiana Jones being his reference.
Jump around, like that's real life, right?
You just ride a Jeep and wear a big hat.
Exactly, right? You discover like the Ark of the Covenant. It's great. So I get people that are like, what are you going to do? We're going to go to school. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. And I had a couple people that started being like, you should be a youth pastor. I can see you being a youth pastor. I don't believe
You're
any
like,
of this.
you don't have any idea.
You have no
That's
idea.
crazy.
But like, they're looking at me and like, you're crazy and outgoing. That's what a youth pastor is, right?
Oh my gosh.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and so I walked into a service one night and I said, all right, God, if you're real, you got to tell me tonight that I'm supposed to be a youth pastor. That was how the night went. I walk into the service, just arrogant as all get out. So this guy's preaching and he's just like middle of message, just laying it down in the word. He just stops. Just stops talking. It's like seeing a deer in headlights. Like gets super awkward. He said he's like, hey, I apologize. Talks to the youth pastor that brought him in, paid him to speak. Right? It's a youth camp, right? You've been in that environment. It's like we brought you in here to bring these kids to the altar, kind of thing. He apologizes and he's like, the Holy Spirit has told me from the moment I got up here that there's someone in the room that is wondering if they're called to be a pastor.
Oh,
and he goes, I just feel like I'm supposed to tell you the
wild.
answer is yes. And I'm like,
and you started sweating.
You're like,
bullets
what?
at that point.
What the expletive just happened,
Yeah.
right?
What?
And so he does anything you do at a Baptist youth camp. Bow your head, close your eyes. We're going to do an invitation. So he just like, if that's you, get up. And I'm like, I'm the only kid that stands up in the room.
No
and I walk to the
way.
back and someone's like, oh my gosh, like you feel called to ministry. I'm like, I don't think I'm saved. That's literally, I said, I don't think I'm saved. So anyways, that's a little long.
Yeah, no.
story to ask
But
for,
the Lord answered the exact,
it was exactly
your
that,
challenge.
and
of
yeah,
like,
exactly that. And so it was a simultaneous, like God called me to himself, repentance, like I'm going to turn away from my sin, trust you. But then I feel like I'm called to like spend the rest of my life
dedicated to him.
dedicated to doing this, like in this ministry kind of church context.
Wow.
So,
That's wild.
Yeah. Well, it's just cool. Like, I mean, because throughout the Jonah series, we've talked about how the Lord pursues us, right? And how even running from God, you run to God. Like, you can't escape
you
God.
can't do it, yeah.
But obviously you can rebel. So the fact that he engaged you in a way that was so, like, outside of the boundaries that people assume he functions in.
Exactly.
And that's what brought you to faith.
Yeah, spot on.
You know what, though? I'm just thinking, this is really cool because you don't know my story in full, but I was married and living in sin, in a way that was not what God wanted. And I was at a church service with my wife and my mother-in-law at CCC here, and the pastor, Dr. Eric Bargerhoff, he said something very similar, and he said there's somebody here who is in an adulterous affair. Bro, I don't know if it was someone else, but it was definitely me. And I remember I literally started sweating.
Wow.
I got like, and I'm like, and so when you said like the Lord will pursue you, he will go to great lengths to pursue us.
Yeah.
And he will call us by name.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's like the reality of the incarnation is like God looked at a people who had for centuries rebelled, turned away. I mean, Jonah's a prophet, right? And it's like when he's a prophet to Nineveh, right? But like not like, why did God send prophets to Israel? Because they were rebelling. And God's method was not more structure, more rules, more regulations. His method was incarnation. Like, I'm going to I'm pursuing you to the point where I'm stepping into your mess,
your experience,
to call you out of it, right? And that's the heart of the gospel.
Man, it's good.
So then after 17, like any stages of rebellion after that, or was it pretty much just like, Jesus, you got me now?
I mean, I've yet to sin since I was 17. So
you know what I mean? Like, there's some people go through like a 2-year era.
Yeah. So I graduate high school. I go to this school. It's a Christian liberal arts school in Tennessee.
Yep.
And
one of our interns goes there. Like a guy that interned with us.
Yeah,
Lee's
awesome
he's on
school.
track team.
Yeah, Lee's awesome school.
Yeah.
And so I go there. I enroll. I'm in biblical studies major, school of theology there, yada yada, whatever. And just about everything that could go wrong my freshman year goes wrong circumstantially, right? Like I get a couple injuries, so like that knocks me.
Yeah.
Like running is like one of those things where like it's not like baseball where you don't play for 4 weeks and then you can I can hit again. Like if you're not running, your fitness is done.
Yeah.
So at that level, it just messed me up. So like that's happening. And then I'm in an environment where I'm around for the first time in my life a lot of guys that are pursuing holiness,
and not because they're parents. It's because of themselves.
Just because of themselves.
Yeah.
And not because they're like a Bible major either.
No.
Like I got guys that are Spanish majors and whatever, like business majors. And I'm looking at my life and I'm like, I'm a theology Bible major and I'm like I'm not pursuing this. Like I remember the first time a guy brought up like his struggle with pornography. And I went, what did you just tell people about that? What do we do? What? We don't talk about that. And I'm like, here. So I had this moment of crisis like about halfway through the year. Because again, like I've given my life to Jesus, but like I mean, it's the epitome of like it took 40 seconds to leave Egypt, took 40 years to get Egypt out of the people of Israel, right? Like it's that. So it's God is chipping away at sin in my life, and I just get overwhelmed with shame, and I on a whim, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not actually going to do this whole church thing, ministry thing. I'm just going to try to be like a Christian guy. So one day I literally go on a whim, change my major, like.
No way.
But just I go to the counselor's office. Hey, I'm changing my major. What are you gonna change it to? I don't know. She gives me a list One of the majors is Russian history, and it's if you get Russian history, you get to go and study in Europe for a semester, and the school pays for it. I went,
Let's
done.
do it.
Let's do that. All right, it sounds good. I can learn Russian, and so yeah, I mean, it's just like that kind of thing. So like that was my freshman year of college, but then
It's like a Jonah moment.
Yeah, I mean, for real, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran. I had a moment where I got to come home, and when I came home for that summer, I had a chance to intern at the church that all that stuff had happened at 2 years prior or whatever. And I that was like where God was like, stop running.
Wow.
You're like, I mean, really for the first time recognizing and seeing the grace of God to my sin, like how his grace covered me at the moment of salvation, but continues to cover me, sustains me. So yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say it was like explicit, like I'm no longer going to believe in God anymore. I'm just going to run away.
But rebelling from obedience to like
calling.
calling.
I wasn't being obedient. Yeah, I wasn't submitting every part of me to Christ.
That's interesting because like even from the perspective of like the whole conversation about reluctant leadership, like what was it? Was it like the pressure? Was it, you know, like you seeing other guys were more passionate about Jesus and not even in ministry majors?
Yeah. I think for me, like one of the things that I've learned about myself over time, so I feel like I can articulate this now, couldn't do it then. Like if I'm not going to excel, not just like get by, but if I'm not going to excel at it, I don't want to do it.
Like imposter syndrome type stuff.
Yeah, like if I'm not going to, like if I'm, I mean, you know, something as simple as like, man, if I don't know that I'm going to excel in this new diet or workout plan, I don't even want to start it because I don't want to fail at it, right?
Got you.
It's like you got enough things in life, you feel like you're already a failure. And so I think I looked at ministry and I said, you know what? I'm not these guys. I'm not.
And they're not even in the
They're
ministry.
not even in it. How can I be the guy that's going to be in it? And like, you
Yeah.
know, and part of my story was like being around situations and people where hidden sin got exposed. And I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that can't get a handle on this sin issue, this addiction, whatever it is. And then 20, 10, 15 years down the road, now I've like not addressed it and there's a pile of bodies behind it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was like it was the shame, like, but it was shame coupled with like this fear of failure.
Yeah.
I can't do this because I'm comparing myself to him. I'm not like him or whatever it is. And so.
Wow.
You know, like a lot of the themes that we've been hearing. So on this series, we've been having pastors in. So I love having pastors in because pastors are no short of words. So it's like, it's easier for me.
We can talk.
Yeah. But I love the themes that keep coming up. And one of the questions that we've been asking is, you know, Jonah, the reluctant leader, and you kind of just answered it. But so I wanted to tap into that now. Is why are men reluctant to lead? Like, what is that thing? And you just talked about in your own life the fear of failure. That's been a theme that we have heard. But I'm just curious in your dealings as a pastor, what are you seeing with other men? Why aren't they leading like they should?
I think when I look at my life and I look at the life of men around me in our church, typically everything you do as a man is based upon you're responding to what you've watched other men of influence in your life do. And I think that basically your response is like, it's like a fork in the road. If you had a really bad men in your life, a father, a whatever that was just not present, not there, not available, not godly, whatever you want to fill it in, you live your whole life to not be him. Or you have the flip of that. Like my dad was amazing and he was influential and godly and this and that, whatever, successful. Well, then I live my whole life to be him.
Live up to that.
It's either I want to live nothing like this standard or I have to become this standard. And I think that to your question, why are men reluctant to lead? It's because both of those are impossible things to drive you. Like that's not, that's just comparison at the end of the day. And it can be comparison. You can see good in something and want to be like it. That still can be really deadly. And so I think that men have a hard time like processing that part of like I don't think that they really fully are aware of like how that truly affects like their decision making, how other men, how they've led them, how that actually affects how they think and live and operate as a 25-year-old, 45, 50, 60-year-old, whatever it is, right? So I think that's one, but I think it's just like we have this I cannot be him, like I'm not able to be that, or I you cannot be that, like, because that would be awful if I was like him.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we step into like the fear of failure thing, right? I think when you step into something and when essentially like when what you're doing or what's put in front of you could potentially make you be reminded that you're unable to meet that standard, or maybe you are more like that thing you don't want to be. I think men just like, oh, I don't want to step into that.
I don't even want to know, so I'm just gonna remove myself altogether.
For me, like I saw men that I loved and looked up to make bad decisions, and to this day, I still have to fight to not operate in like I don't want to become like him. So if there's a chance that if I look at him and go, well, he failed, I don't want to be a failure, so I'm not going to do that thing that might cause me to fail. That can be as simple as like, no, I'm going to call an electrician because like I don't want to like do this light switch wrong, and my wife be like, well, you don't know how to do light switches right? Like it can be like that petty, or it can be like, I don't really know if I want to disciple my son intentionally. Maybe I'll just have the church do it. Because if I do, you know what I'm saying? Like it can be like on both those platforms.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like that failure.
I'm just like, my wife, like, she's like, don't try to fix that yourself.
Oh, no,
Please call an electrician.
We're 100%. That's where we are 10 years into marriage. It's like, we don't even get asked. Like yesterday, I hung some mirrors at our house. And my buddy was over earlier in the morning. And she's like, y'all did a great job. I go, I did it after he left. Like, what do you mean we? She's like, wait, you did them? Just you? I said, yeah. She's like, are they level? Are they even? I said, Rachel.
That's hilarious.
She knows.
Yeah, I fix stuff on purpose, like and then I'll go to her and be like, I fixed something.
Just so you know, I wanted you to be aware of this.
I swear I'm a man.
Yeah, right.
But it's so true. There's something about that. And it is silly, but I'm thinking about the toilets, right? So like several years ago, I fixed all the toilets.
Yeah.
Well, over time, you know, I think it's my kids' fault. Like the wear and tear, like they're just not using the toilets appropriately, right. And so that's really what the issue is.
Just blame the kids.
But yeah, so like one toilet, you had to like hold it down a while for it to flush. Like the other one, you had to like once it flushed, you had to like jiggle it a few times so that it would reset. And like, you know, it's just for me, it's like this is just quirks. You know, this makes this home, you know, interesting.
It makes it unique.
Yeah, it's unique. My wife is like, yeah, we need to fix all these. So I just came home one day and they were all fixed.
The funny thing is, I live in an apartment complex where you just put a work order in, and I won't do it because I want to prove myself.
Me, I did it.
But there's something about like the fact that I can't do it the right way that bothers me, you know, and you know, today you got YouTube, so you can figure out how to do everything. Yeah. So, and that's what I did with the toilets, like, cause I literally replaced the entire thing. Right. And I felt very accomplished, but you know, it wasn't perfect, you know, but you feel like, but there is that intimidation factor sometimes I think that we deal with and go, man, first of all, I don't want to do it wrong. I also don't want to show that I have this weakness. What is it with men and not wanting to be weak? I was listening to a podcast, Mark Diaz said it, with Lecrae and Jared Wilson. And it was like the whole podcast was around this idea that manliness is not this like, you know, what we typically
it's not
think
absence of weakness.
Weakness actually is. And then when you look at Paul, and that's what he says, he's like, man, Christ's strength is made perfect in my weakness. And where do we get off on this idea that somehow we have to be right or know everything?
Yeah.
Or else we're like dumb or weak or whatever the case is.
Well, I think that like it's rooted in our pride. I think it's easy to throw stones and be like, oh, it's the culture and stereotypes around men. Yeah, all that's true. But like stereotypes only gain ground when like sinful people give them fuel.
That's good.
Like racial stereotype only exists and is a real thing because like someone give it fuel. Same thing with like men, right? So like those things are around because of sin in our lives, pride. And I think in our pride, like I don't want to be reminded of my insufficiency. I'd rather be the guy that's pointing yours out or helping you fix yours, and yada yada yada, right? And so I think that like that coupled with, you know, just things like culturally and whatnot, it creates an environment where exactly what you said. For me to expose weakness, like that's seen as like a a knock against me.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to trust you, if I'm going to believe, you can't show weakness. You got to be strong. It's like, you know, kind of thing, as opposed to modeling what we see all over the scriptures, which were every godly leader that accomplished great things embraced what their weaknesses were. We're honest about what their weaknesses were.
Yeah.
We're open with them, right? For Paul to say, like that concept, you can't actually experience the strength of Christ, the power of Christ that raised Christ from the dead, unless you are embracing your weakness.
That's
So
good.
it's like my attempt to control, my attempt to be able to always have the answer is actually working against what I want to see done in my life, which is God's hand on my life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's that whole idea of like narcissists aren't actually that full of themselves. It's really they're so weak and insecure that they have to cover it with that much control.
Alpha, like
You
that
overcompensate.
alpha mentality.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
overcompensate in order to hide the weak boy inside that you don't want
Exactly.
anybody to see.
yeah, exactly.
I know you're gonna have a question about his Patros, but before you,
No.
but
Go for it.
before that, I wanted to ask. So given that context that you're explaining, how do you typically help men out of that, like overcome those barriers?
So I try to tell guys, typically if a guy's sitting with me, he's at a pretty broken moment in his life, right? If he's at a point where he's opening like this, right? We're in an environment where like
He's hit rock bottom.
something's happened,
Yeah.
right? Maybe we're in like a context, it's like a study that's like, oh, this is, but most of the time it's like,
No one's proactively coming to you and being like, "Hey,
Bro,
before I hit rock bottom, can we talk about?"
I would love to have a guy hit me up and just be like, hey, I'd love to go lunch with you. Nothing's going on. Everything's great.
I just want to be.
Let's just go crush some sushi together. Done. Talk about Ohio State football. Let's do it.
Or like, you know what? I'm about 60% towards rock bottom right
Yeah.
now. I could use a pick
Before we
me up.
get
let's do it.
there,
Yeah,
can
before
we
get
can we
there,
handle
be
this?
proactive, yeah. So, so I mean, like,
That might be our call to
there's
action.
there's a vulnerability that's already kind of there, but I lean into that. I just basically, I say this so often to guys, like, God never promised to transform the fake version of you. So if we're
That's
gonna
good.
like do work, like we got to be honest, we got to be real, we got to be raw and open. So how do we get them out of that? Like, I'm doing my best to help someone diagnose the things beneath the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if kind of a thing that I run through with guys is basically, if you're in a moment of hurt, you got to move to a place of healing. There's a journey you got to go on. You got to like identify the pain. So your wife left you. Let's say that's the situation. Well, what's the pain though? Is it that my wife left me? Is it people's perception of me because my wife left me?
Yeah.
Is it because I lost my best friend? I mean, like we gotta dig into that pain, right? Like this moment in Jesus is walking to Jericho. There's a blind man on the road. Blind man calls out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus' first question is, "What do you want me to do for you?" What? He's blind. What do you mean? What do you want him to do for you? No, he needed him to articulate. Like, here's what it is. So like I have
That's
guys say,
good.
let's get into your pain. Let's dig deep there. And this is not a one-time coffee conversation.
For sure.
This is discipleship.
Yeah.
This is whatever.
Over time.
So we're going to look at pain and then really ultimately like, let's see from that pain, what lies is that causing you to believe?
Oh.
So like, hey, that pain's going to manifest. The devil cannot create. He can just manipulate what's been created. So like he's going to manipulate through deception and lies. So what lies do you believe about you, yourself, about God, in light of that pain? And then we can get truth in there.
What if the pain is like seemingly the wrong pain for the situation? So my wife left me, and my pain is that like I actually don't care that she left me. I care that how people look at me. Are you still engaging them on that pain point, or are
Yes,
you like
that's a great question.
reframing how they
That's a
need to
great
think?
question.
Okay.
So basically, what I have found is So let's take that, right?
Yeah.
Let's walk through that journey. Well, it's people. But people think about me. Okay, well then, what lies that cause you to believe about yourself? Right. Well, it caused me to believe that like people's opinions about me are everything. My identity is not based in Christ, but in this or whatever. Okay, so what's the truth say? The truth says that like you were bought with a price, right? That you're a son of God. That you are righteous in God's eyes. So we walk that whole journey. And if the primary pain point was people's perception of you in the midst of a broken marriage, you don't get to the end of that and go, I'm healed. I feel great now. Because you know what we did? Like, all we did was, like, you had a cough and I gave you medicine for it, but you didn't realize it's because you actually have lung cancer. So I have found that if I can help guys walk through that process, even if I know on the front end that's not the real issue, like how good does it go to be like, that's not the real issue, bro?
Yeah, like
it's like what
they're tunnel vision on that
tunnel
pain
vision.
that you have to engage that first.
Bro, I've got to. It's same with like parenting, right? Like like the best kind of parenting is when I can help my kids come to this realization themselves. Like if I can help you see that, like, no, the deepest pain point for you in this situation is not someone's opinion, but it is like you, like the heart of God has been broken because his marriage has been broken or whatever it is. But I've found like I've got to walk you on that journey, because if I just jump to truth, like I'm a pastor, right? So hey, what's the Bible say? The Bible says that, like, whatever. Yeah. That bounces off me if I've got walls built up.
For sure.
Like
I'm not even in a state to take that in.
Truth penetrates, right? But truth has to be spoken specifically to the lies that need to be exposed.
That's good.
You know
That's good.
And so like I try to go almost like stepping stones on a bridge. Like we got to hit pain, and then we got to hit lies, and then we got to hit truth. And we got to keep doing that over and over again. We can't skip a step, kind of thing. Yeah. So it's not like I'm not a licensed. I mean, I don't have any psychology.
No, but that's
like,
super helpful.
Like this, that's just more like discipleship. And that's just, by the way, that's how I like operate my own life. Like my own hurt, my own moments. I try to walk myself through that process. And then if I get to the end and I go, I don't feel like I'm healed. Well, it's probably because I didn't identify the right pain. So I gotta go back.
That's good.
Like that's the deep work you do with the Spirit of God.
Yeah, because for men, because this isn't just for like counselors, right? Like men that pastor or patros to other men. Like if a guy's saying like, yeah, I'm worried about what people think of me, and then you flesh that out and you end on your identity is in Christ, and they're like, yeah, it is. You're like, and as somebody that identifies with in Christ.
Exactly.
You can't be here with your marriage.
Boom.
Yeah. Got you.
We can't do that. Yeah. So it's like it's almost like, if my kids, if I let them, like, we're having dessert as like a second course with every meal. So, dinner is like mac and cheese, but we're also gonna have lasagna on the side, or not lasagna. They don't eat lasagna.
Family's carb loading,
right? Yeah, right. It's like if I let my kids, like, they're gonna want what they want, right?
For sure.
But if I help like expose them to like, hey, here's like, hey, in our family, like we eat dinner together. That's what we try to do. We try to have dinner together. Okay. Now we do dessert anywhere else, but like if we start bringing dessert to dinner, like that's like that's not the kind of family that we are. Like it's a weird, different kind of like psychology where like I'm trying to let them go, oh wait, yeah, you're right. So like, oh wait, yeah, my identity is in Christ, and that helps me feel better about this whole people's perception thing. But hey, since your identity is in Christ, dog, you over here like your sin put your marriage in this position. Like, so it just it allows that journey, like allows you to go on that journey. Yeah. In a way I think actually can be productive. So,
one of the things that I really appreciate about you, Allan, is your transparency and just willingness to say this is what it is. I think a lot of guys, I think it's better in a younger generation. Like, I'm 46, right? My generation, we don't admit any weakness. Yeah. To do so is to lose.
Well, mines are so obvious that you can't not be transparent.
Right.
Well, but I think you recognize them, so you share them with us, and then we know. Yeah. But like that's part of the charm of it all, and I think the reason that social media has taken off like it is that you do get a behind the peak look at these people that you would have otherwise never known, right? Athletes, musicians, actors, whatever the case is. And you can see, oh, this is what they think. This is how they live. The mask is coming down a little bit. Now, whatever they want to portray, they don't have to be truthful with us. But we see behind the curtain a little bit. So there's the authenticity piece of it that is really good. And what I have found is that when it comes to our sin, that is where we are inauthentic. Yes. And so something I've appreciated about Allan is Allan will be quick to say, no, this is how I am. Like, and not like there's a lot of joking, trust me, with Allan, but.
Well, you joke to like not cry.
Yeah, well, right. But you're recognizing weaknesses and saying like, hey, I need to deal with this, or you're recognizing sin. I remember And like the vulnerability piece, and that's why I wanted to go with this, is that the vulnerability piece I think is really important. And I have to fight against it because everything in the culture and everything in my brain is telling me, do not show weakness to other people. Yeah. Because if you do that, then you lose credibility. Yeah. And they won't be able to trust you. They won't follow you. And then all of a sudden, like you whatever you thought you were, you won't have. Yeah. I have to like battle that all the time. Wow. So one of the things I like about this format is it's just the three of us in the studio, right? Yeah. But who knows who will listen to it? Yeah. So it's a capacity for us to be vulnerable. That's good. And I remember when my wife and I, we were probably 8 months into, me confessing my affair, and she used to just hold divorce over my head. So like, I was doing everything. I was going to therapy. I was doing the thing, like whatever she asked, I was doing. I mean, it was obviously very trying, very difficult. I had lost everything, but I was like, try not to lose my marriage, right? And she would use the D word, right? She's like, I'm gonna divorce you, because she knew that in my kind of like churchy upbringing, that's the one thing you can't do. I mean, in the 80s, if you were growing up and divorced, you were like,
you could do meth, but don't do divorce.
Right? That is so true. Yep. So it's like that was what was holding me. And then I would like be so fearful of the opinion of others and what people would think about me, that I would do anything to like, and so my motivation was what other people thought about me, even though had genuinely been converted and I had genuinely had seen my sins wash away and I was following after the Savior. There were those remnants, the remnants that were living in my flesh. And I remember where I was out in Phoenix, and she hadn't traveled with us. I was out there with my family. I had some grandparents, one was passing, and I was out there, and she called me and we were chatting, and she, I don't know, something just had set her off, and so she was letting me have it. And, I was just taking it, and she's like, that's it, I'm done. Like, I'm serious this time. We're divorcing. There's nothing you can do to change my mind. And I remember in that moment, the Spirit was like, you have to be okay if you're divorced. That can't be an idol between you and me, because now you're erecting the fear of that, the opinion of others. That's an idol. I mean, this all happened in a nanosecond, right? But I got it all for the Spirit conveying it to me, and I was just like, you know what? If that's what you have to do, then you just need to do it. Yeah. You know how I feel, but that's what you need to do. Because I've been like, every other time I was like, please don't do it. Please don't do it. We can work this out. I know God's a God of miracles. And I was just pleading and pleading, but really it was kind of like, what are people going to think? Like they didn't already think terrible things about me. Right, but like, in my mind, that was kind of the straw that was going to break all camels' backs. And once that happened, like, she never used that word again. And now we've been married 23 years, and God was restorative. But I use that as an example of like how we can get so concerned with the wrong thing. Right.
Well, like when you hold something so tightly, the devil will weaponize it. Oh, exactly what it was. Until you like own it. Because I remember when I was in college, there was this group of kids that I don't know why, but they were like saying stuff about me, and I didn't know why. Like, I was literally just trying to like hold Bible studies, doing like I'm awesome. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. But like started talking like some trash about me, and I was just like, so I walked up to one of the kids, and he was normal to my face, and like he was like, hey, what's up, Allan? And I was like, oh, what's up? So I heard, and he was in shock, and I was like, yeah, you don't know. I don't think you know that like this Jesus thing isn't fake to me. Like, I promise you, it's not fake to me. And then he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, you've been walking around telling people I don't really live this. And I was like, and I'll be honest with you. And then I just listed all my sins that like I was struggling with. And I was just like, I struggle with porn. I struggle with, and I just went down a list, a laundry list. Because when you hold on to it, they have power. And so I was like, there you go. So you can walk around saying that I'm not living this, and that's fine because I am sinful. But like, you're not going to say that Jesus isn't real to me. And then he was just like, I didn't know what to do with it. And I think that there's liberty and freedom when we hold our sin with like, yes. And I'm dealing with it. Me and God are handling it. But if you constantly just try to like shove it to the side and hide it from everybody, it's just like the devil's going to use it.
I mean, Jesus Jesus says in Matthew 11 to come to him, everyone who's weary and carries heavy burdens, and he will give you rest. Okay, so like, why though, right? Like, to take up my yoke upon you, right? Because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Okay, so like, thinking about that, it is not as if we do not have things that we are going to carry once we come to Christ. It's the question of, if you're exhausted, you're weary and burdened, that's you. It's because you're not taking advantage of the God who wants to carry those burdens with you.
That's good.
Carry your sin struggles, carry your insecurities. Like, it's not like you just may magically go away. Yeah. You have a moment, it's like, wow, I just don't even feel that way anymore. Like, it's no, like your flesh is always there. The remnants, you're saying, are there, and you're getting like, but you don't have to carry those things by yourself. Like, you can cast those things upon him because he cares for you.
That's good.
You know, and his heart towards you is the posture. He ends in Matthew 11. He says like I'm gentle and lowly in heart. His default position to you is gentleness, and lowly is like the idea of like it's humility. Like he's humble and he's gentle.
So good.
Like I'm expecting, he would drop the hammer on me, right? Like he's about to get the belt out and like, you know, but it's like, no, like he's gentle. So imagine like the godliest, literally, man to ever live. And his default position towards you as a sinner is gentleness, because he knows that like it is gentleness, it is kindness that Paul says that leads us to repentance, right? And I think that like when we begin to just ingrain that into our minds, remind myself of that every single day, well then as I struggle and things happen in my life, I don't feel like I got to hold on to this. I can give this to you, God. I can let you carry this with me. And by the way, this is who I am. This is what I'm walking through. This is my, but I have a Savior who hung on a cross for me, so like that I can live in confidence. Now, you know, and so it's like that change of perspective.
It's the idea of like trying to walk around like you don't have, like, this is what makes me a Christian, is that I have sin that was like is covered.
Well, and that's, I think, a lot of guys, especially like if you've been living life in like the world not following Jesus, that can be the primary thing the enemy uses, is like, no, they're not gonna believe you. Like, you look like you're not that much different than them. Like you did, and they just like point out all these things. But it's like, no, but like that's the point. The point is that I'm not that much different than them, and that's why I need Jesus. You know, and no one ever is able to argue with like a transformed life. And so it's like, I don't need to give you, you know, apologetics to prove that like my God is real. Like, just stick with me over time. You're going to see a different version.
That's good.
Speaking of time, your time as just like coming into faith, was it marked with somebody that you looked to? Like, so thinking about the idea of a Patros as being the Patros Podcast, this father figure, or maybe it was your father, I don't know, but was there someone who like you looked to go, that's what I need to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I had a youth pastor when I first gave my life to Christ, who kind of discipled me as a senior in high school, met with me at McDonald's at 6:30 in the morning once a week, like that kind of relationship, right? He ended up becoming my boss years later. I ended up working for him for years, so I have a cool relationship with him. So he was a big one, and then I had another guy who in college. So that first guy's name is Kelly Canals. Second guy's name is a guy named Derek Simpson. He was the guy that I worked for there in Tennessee, and was there through that whole process of like navigating that call, confirming it, that kind of thing, and just giving me a picture of, I mean, he's the first guy as like an adult that like, you know, would punch me in the gut. Because he loved me, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's good. Yeah.
I remember first time, like me and my now wife Rachel, we were dating, and he pulls me in his office. He's like, "Yeah, I've noticed like you and this girl been like, you know, y'all like." I'm like, "Yeah, we're serious." What boundaries have you set? I was like, "I don't know. I mean, we're not like, you know, we're not like going all well.
We're doing that."
He goes, "You don't have anything written down?" Nope. You're just gonna like focus on willpower?
Just gonna wing it?
You know, he literally goes, "You just gonna focus on willpower there?" And he goes, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." I mean, he just lays into me. It's like But I mean, as a 19-year-old kid, I needed to hear that to
Yeah.
go, if I'm going to do a relationship because by the way, this is the first relationship I was trying to do in a way that honored God.
Yeah.
I want to marry this girl. Like, if you're going to do this in a godly way, bro, like, you got to have a plan. You got to have accountability. You got to have X, Y, Z. And so, like, that was the first time I had a man do that in my life. And so, like, yeah, for him, he's still a guy.
Like, you haven't written it down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
No. Why would I?
What are you doing, dog? And so, yeah, so those are two guys kind of in
That's
that
good.
season of my life that were father figure, father.
What was the age gap with you when you were 19 and that guy?
He's gosh, how old is he now? We're probably 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was probably in his early 30s at
Okay.
that time, and I'm in like my late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the reason I ask is because I think there is I think every teenager struggles with it at some point, or like every generation does, where it's like, I mean, now they say, you know, like, oh, that's an old head,
Yeah.
you know, so I'm not going to listen to him. And there's just so much wisdom from
Bro,
there. And that's
you like, so like, take it like my life now. I'd say like my Patros figure is actually my boss currently, my pastor. We have a dynamic, a working relationship at our church where we lead alongside. He's the head honcho. He's in charge.
Yeah.
He empowers me to lead alongside him.
Yeah.
I'm 32. He's 56. I think you're 56. If you are not that old.
Just kidding.
you have
Just
the wisdom
kidding.
of a
You have the
56-year-old.
And he, so I mean, yeah, he's 20 plus years my senior.
Yeah.
And two things about what you said. One thing he says all the time that he models so well is that, like, you got to have someone in your life with more stars, more stripes,
That's
more
good.
plate appearances, and more strikeouts.
Yep.
He's a sports guy, right? So he's got to lead us there.
Mhm.
But he, like,
And then you looked at him as like national champion.
Yeah.
National champion.
and I'm a
I
national
can't really
champion.
relate.
Yeah, where did Alabama go in the playoffs? Oh, they didn't. Okay. So he's big, and he models that, like, he takes us under his wing. But here's what I found in my life, right? So as a younger guy, it's easy to look at an older guy, look at a guy like him who's got adult kids and he doesn't have toddlers. You know, he's not in the same season of life that I'm in.
Yeah.
I can go, bro, you don't get it. You're not in it. You don't remember it. You don't know what it's like nowadays, right? But I think what I learned is that, like, just because someone doesn't have your circumstance doesn't mean that they're lacking perspective on your circumstance.
That's good.
So he wasn't raising toddlers in like a iPhone world. Like, he wasn't doing that, right? But you know what he did deal with? Like, he dealt with, like, raising kids that love Jesus. And by the way, I can look at his life and go, you got two adult kids, they love Jesus. They like love.
You did it.
They love the church.
Yeah.
And you got a wife that you love and loves you. Bro, I want to be you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and so, like, I can
You did the thing.
You did the thing, dog. Yeah. And so, like, it's one of those where I think if you're a younger guy, like, you've got to know where you want to go in life. That's general, right?
For sure.
But like, let's go, like, your life with Christ. You got to know where you want to go, and you cannot go there on your own. Like, you got to have guys beside you, and you got to have guys ahead of you, and you got to have guys behind you that you're pulling along the way, because like, that all-encompassing relational dynamic doesn't allow you to, like, slack. Because if you got someone above you holding you accountable, like, you can't slack, like, because you don't have the excuse of, like, well, I didn't know what was ahead. He told you what was ahead, right? If you don't have the guys around you, it's like, dog, but you were supposed to be at the gym today. Why weren't you at the gym? Like, you need that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, we were supposed to read through Jonah. Why didn't you do your reading this week? Like, you need that. Bro, I saw how you interacted with your wife. That's not cool, dude. You don't need to pop off like that. Like, you need those guys that are there with you.
Yeah.
And then you need the guys behind you that are looking at you, because you got to realize that, like, you can't be someone's reason why they gave themselves permission to sin. Well, I looked at you and you do it.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have that all-encompassing relationship, the Patros, like, you have all that in there, I think it allows you to be a fully formed man.
That's good.
Because life is not everything we just said about weakness, vulnerability, all that isolates. So when you don't isolate yourself, you actually can live, and you actually can live life to the fullest.
That's good.
You know?
Yeah. I would want to camp so much more on all of this. So at some point we got to talk about Jonah.
Happened to Jonah now.
We do.
But I'm thinking about, it's kind of a transition as you're talking about, because I had somebody, I've heard it said, like, I have somebody that, you know, that is pouring into me, someone I'm pouring into, and someone to live out my Christian freedoms with.
Yeah.
Like, so it's that
That's
same,
great. Yeah,
right?
same thing.
It's the same concept and idea. And I'm just thinking in Jonah's life, as we're looking at, he has this crazy story, the whale, everybody knows it, and then he goes and preaches, and they repent. Mm-hmm. And last week we looked at he's mad, and so now we're getting into like just this like more mad.
Yeah, right.
And just
we're stewing.
Yeah, just more stewing over and everything. But I'm just wondering who was in Jonah's life. Just as you were having that conversation, I'm like, man, did he have another prophet? I'm sure he did, right? Like, who was pouring into him though, and then who was he pouring into? But I just wonder in this moment, did he? You take a trip away. That's kind of like, well, you're running, right, and you're in isolation. And whenever the devil gets us in isolation, we're easy prey.
Yeah.
And so I wonder his emotional state through all of this, if he was really able to handle it like he could have. And it's not like someone had a cell phone and could hit him up like, hey, how you doing over there in Nineveh?
Bro, I hate how I treat the prophets, because I'm always just like, well, Joseph didn't.
Yeah.
Right. My brain is always like, well, Joseph did it.
Oh, it's so terrible. I don't think that at all. I think
like it literally goes straight there. Like when it's like, who did Jonah have? I was like, Joseph didn't have anybody.
You figured it out.
I don't relate to that at all. I relate to like I'm in isolation, and a lot of times though I want to be in isolation because I'm running from God. I disagree with Him. And so anyway, we're gonna hop into Jonah chapter 4, 5 through 8. So just kind of the format, so as you're kind of our teacher and we're your student, and we may pop off here, here and there, but we're waiting to hear what you have to say.
No, yeah, for sure. So, you recapped it a little bit. Jonah's reluctantly gotten to Nineveh, preached repentance. Nineveh responds in that way, right? And so now we're like, basically, like he knows exactly what God was going to do, that if they repented, he wouldn't bring destruction. But it's like, now he's like, but is that, maybe they will. Like, I don't want to have a front row seat, right? So, like, we're in, chapter 4, verse 4, right? The Lord replies to him, like, hey, is it right for you to be angry? In verse 5, it says, Jonah had gone out and sat down at a place east of the city. By the way, like, it's just interesting how in Scripture, like, leaving God's design and God's plan is always like connoted by like the direction of east.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that's where he went. There he made a shelter for himself, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. And then the Lord God provided a leafy plant, made it grow over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant. I love that, like, he leaves, and then like think about everything he does to try to see if God would not do what his word already said it would.
Yeah.
I'm going to go build a shelter. And then I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait and see what would happen to the city. It's like, how many times I think in our own life do I find myself, I know what God's word says, I'm going to do the opposite, assuming that I'm going to get a different outcome than what God's word says, right? The city's not going to be destroyed. Like, they repented, right? He knows that, right? And look at so this is legitimately Jonah rebelling 2.0. He didn't run to they're not fish nowadays, like, in this one. Yeah. But like, look at God's kindness, right? He provides this leafy plant and it grows over him. And then again, it's like Jonah was happy about the plant.
Yeah.
So in the midst of him still rebelling, like, God is still being gracious, and Jonah's enjoying the grace that God's giving him, right?
Like, I love this plant.
I just think it's such a
this
funny
is the
line.
best.
Let me hit the boys up. Let's come over here, right? Make a fire.
He enjoyed the plant.
Yeah,
like,
exceedingly glad. Like, this is so awesome.
Exactly, right? But then the next verse is like reality check. God, at dawn, verse 7, the next day, God provided a worm that chewed the plant so that it withered. Right? God's reminding, like, I give, I take away.
Yep.
And when the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint and he wanted to die. And he said, it would be better for me to die than to live. Right? We're going through verse 8, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for me, a couple things that just stick out to me here. I see a God who is, he's shown his character to Jonah so many times in this narrative, right? Small little book, but so many times we've seen this character, from his calling of Jonah to how he responds to Jonah rebelling, right? I mean, God could have sent a storm and just wiped Jonah out and just go, all right, next up, who we got now? We got Allan. All right, we'll send Allan over. Like, But that's not what he does, right? And then he goes there, and then he honors his word, right? The Ninevites, you guys have probably gotten into this, just awful people. I mean, just what they did to people, like just historically, these are a bad group, right? And so there's like racial tension, there's ethnic tension here for Jonah. Like he hates them, they hate him. God has no reason to look and smile at Nineveh, and then he does, right? And that just, that makes Jonah like irate. So he goes over here, right? So Jonah's like seeing who God is, and then yet like we see him out here. I'm still not going to really trust what your word says. I'm going to see if maybe there's going to be a different outcome. And then, oh, by the way, like God's going to remind you that he can provide for you still, but he's also going to remind you that like he's still sovereign, he's still in control, and he still has a standard, right? Like, and you're not living in that standard right now, Jonah, right? And I love like this last, I think this is so fitting, okay? The predicament that Jonah finds himself in these few verses is on his own doing. He's the one who went east of the city,
and then the wind's going east. Yeah,
like think about this. Like geographically, like that's not how he gets back to where he's from.
Yeah,
you don't go east, you go west. So he got himself into this, right? And then it's Romans 1. What is God's wrath? God's wrath is currently being revealed against all ungodliness by giving us over to our sin.
Yeah.
That's what the wrath of God is. I'm giving you over to your sin and your rebellion. Hell is ultimately the culmination of God giving you over
to what you want.
Yeah, it's what C.S. Lewis said. Like it's like either you will say to God, "Thy will be done," or He will say to you, "Thy will be done." Hell is a prison locked from the inside.
That's a bar.
So, like, it wasn't me. It was your boy C.S. Lewis. And so, I think what I love here is that, like, how the author, like, utilizes, like, the descriptive language of, like, he went east, and then what is it that bothers him? It's a scorching east wind. You wouldn't have had the wind if you didn't go east, dude. It's like
fall, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. And then Jonah goes, well, it's better for me to die than to live, right? And it's like Jonah does what every man does when life gets hard.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm just gonna give up.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not gonna own the fact that I got myself into this hole.
Yeah.
I am in this pit right now. I have gone east because I went east. I got an east wind blowing in my face and by the way, the one thing that was giving me relief was from my God. And he didn't have to give that to me. That was his grace. And so I for me, it's like, Jonah's this tragic individual where you see the reality of humanity that, like, yeah, he goes back and he preaches and there's revival in this city. But then he leaves and he rebels. And it's like, your mountain is not ever too high and your valley is never too low for God, kind of thing. So,
yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Just thinking about how many men, myself included, will look to excuse sin. We look to excuse not following through with commitments. We look to excuse not spending time in the Word or like pursuing Christ. Yeah. Like, we have a million reasons legitimately in our brains why we can't do X, Y, and Z. And yet the thing that we need to do is to look in the mirror.
Yes.
Right? The most important thing we can do is look in the mirror and honestly reflect and say, okay, and I have done this. Like, I've forced myself to look in the mirror because I don't like what I see anyway. Like, this old, aging, bald man, and go, but beyond the physical appearance, what's in your heart, Jeff? Like, why are you? Because to me, it always goes to motivation. Your actions are just your actions. Yeah. What is motivating those actions? Yeah. And so I want to say, why am I feeling a certain way? Yeah. Why am I holding on to this anger? Why am I holding on to this bitterness? Why am I demanding of my wife what I'm not even willing to do myself? Like, you have to ask yourself those hard questions. And that's what Jonah really, like, he wasn't willing to do. Like, when we look through all of this story, and it's so crazy that Jonah, like, there was lots of prophets that didn't have Bible books named after him, right?
For sure.
But God chose Jonah. Yep. And I just, like, and yet it's really unredeeming for him.
It doesn't, like, it's not like, you're not going to skip ahead to what y'all will cover later, but, like, you don't get a happy ending.
No.
I mean, like, it's not like Jonah's like, you know what, God, like, you're right. And let's go back. I'm going to go live with, I'm a pastor of church there. Like, no, like, it's, and I think what I find, here's one of the challenges, I'll say, I think for men, always, but I would say especially for today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of outside factors that have contributed to the way each of us are the way we are, right? We could talk about fatherlessness, or a father that's there but not present there emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about all that, right? There's financial issues that maybe got you to where you are today. There's, God forbid, some kind of like abusive. There's
Stuff that's
like,
not your fault or stuff that's
yes,
your fault.
Exactly. Like, here's the thing: we are in a context and culture today where we are more okay to talk about. Yeah, we're broken, and we're more okay to talk about brokenness than ever.
Yeah.
Here's what we cannot do, though. I cannot righteously embrace that brokenness is a reality and we need to confront it, and then unrighteously say, so in light of that, my sin's not my problem.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my dad. My dad wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, like, I think godliness is saying, this is my life that I've been dealt.
Mm-hmm.
And God knows the life that I've been dealt.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, better than I even know it. And yet he still calls me to be his son and to follow him.
That's good.
And when Jesus said to pick up your cross and to deny yourself, the self that you're denying is the self that's been adversely affected by brokenness.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, I see Jonah, it's better for me just to die than to live. Is it though, Jonah? Like, really, dude? Like, it is better for you. And it's like, for us as guys, let's be honest about our brokenness and vulnerable and real about what is affecting us, but let's take responsibility.
Yeah.
That, like, you brought my mentor earlier. My mentor, JJ, who's my pastor now, I mean, the worst situation he could ever come from. Alcoholic, abusive father, lived through, basically he was raised in the foster care system. Dude's got a stable marriage of 30 plus years, 3 kids. And I'm like, that's why he's a Patros to me. Like, hey, because you looked at your circumstances and said, this is not ideal and this is not good, but I'm going to change the story. I'm going to change it. And, like, that's I think good. For us as men, like, whether it's your sin, the sin of those around you, you have the ability because of the cross of Christ to go, I'm going to confront this head on because I have victory. It's been given to me.
That's good.
Like, the battle's won. I just got to embrace it.
And I've told so many of the young men in our programs, hey, listen, you're not responsible for what someone else did to you, but you are responsible for the choices that you now make in response to it, right? Exactly. And that's that's the rub, is that you can live in victim mentality, and people do, and they end up like the 62-year-old cat lady. This is what she said she was. I'm an angry cat lady. Yes, I'm 62 and I'm mad. Because apparently our stuff showed up in her feed.
Oh, no.
And so she sent us this angry message about, why am I getting this trash,
That's hilarious.
And she's like, yes, I'm an angry cat lady, and I choose to be an angry cat lady.
An algorithm, bro.
I am like, wow, you are.
That's hilarious.
You definitely need our stuff. But, like, there's a woman who has never taken personal responsibility. She's mad at men. She blamed Trump in this thing too, by the way. But she's mad at men. She's mad at what has been done to her. And my guess is there's probably maybe some terrible things, maybe some horrible things that have happened to her. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do about it? Yeah. And are you going to live in that? Or are you going to recognize that we're all broken? None of us are without sin. No, not one. And to see my brokenness in response to this is just as bad, and it's just as damning, and it will cause just as much pain in the future. At the end of the day, one of us we have to be able to break the cycle, or we're going to continue to experience. Man, I tell my kids, like, all the time, Allan knows I got these little drive-bys with my kids, which is like 2 or 3 or 4 word things. It's just like, hey, not dancing, it's one of them, or one of them is personal responsibility. Like, I just have these little things that I'll say when I hear them kind of doing things. One of them is, never let someone else's actions determine your happiness, right? Like, hey, and that's usually with the siblings, right? Because someone's doing something. For sure. I'm like, hey, don't let her determine your happiness. Don't let him determine your happiness. Problem is, I've taught it too well.
That they hold you accountable now.
Because when Ohio State lost to Michigan, and I was a grumpy son of a gun,
Don't you hate that?
Oh man, they just hit me between the eyes.
That's
Dad,
hilarious.
don't let your happiness be determined by someone. So, but the good news is they got it.
Exactly.
I mean, I can at least take that.
It's working.
And you learned it as a national champion.
I did learn it as a national champion.
Yeah, we know that in all things is Christ who strengthens us, and we know that like when trials come, Paul says it's for the purpose of endurance, and we've endured. We endured a rough day against the team up north
season.
to see what we.
It was like a 3.5 week
This is part of their addiction,
right?
By the way,
it was a 3.5 week season. We really had a lot of soul searching.
We can't run away from it.
No, there's a phrase that me and my wife always say, and it's not like we coined it but like we just always say it to each other, is like whenever we see unhealthy situations in our family systems that we both come from. Her story is hers to tell, but like I come from a broken home, and it's just like it stops with us.
Yeah,
it's just that.
I love that.
It's simple.
I love that.
It's simple. It's like repeating to myself. My whole life has been it stops with me. Like me and my sister were just talking yesterday. It was me. I FaceTimed her for my nephew's birthday, and it was me, her, and her husband, and we're just talking. Like I was joking around because anytime I've presented like vulnerable conversations to my family, nobody in my family does vulnerability. Like I don't come from a vulnerable family. Like I can't get a serious conversation out of anybody. If I try, it's met with aggression or avoidance. And then I was like, I'm kind of the black sheep because I crave those conversations because I know what they produce. And I think that's what ultimately we desire for men, is that you do not base like your health off of where you come from or where you're going, but it's just literally like, what is God calling you to do right now? And what's the healthy thing to do right now? So to let it stop with you if you come from unhealth, the way that JJ did.
And again, it's a mindset shift, and it's like, you're like I think a well-rounded life when it comes to decision making is like you pre-decide and then you put disciplines in your life that like put that in place. So like finances, like I'm gonna pre-decide we're gonna save X amount because we're gonna go on vacation this year. Okay, well then I'm gonna put disciplines in my life to go. We're only gonna spend this much eating out, like that. I think in our life, but like in our life as a man, it's like I'm gonna pre-decide. I'm not gonna be a victim. I'm not gonna always just be. This is because of what. Because by the way, the enemy wins when we do that. Like he can't create. He can only manipulate. So if he can only manipulate, every time you let what happened to you in this season of life, a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you're giving power. You're giving power to the enemy. And the enemy is using someone else's sin to now cause you to live a life of sin. And it's like, he didn't create anything in your life. He just manipulated what's happened around you. And again, the power that you have because of the resurrected God that lives inside of you to say, it stops with me. It's not going to, I'm not going to be that man because of him or because of her.
Well, and that's the thing is like, you can be a victim in the sense of like, what if what you're going through, if you ended up in foster care, if you have been abused, like you're a victim to somebody else's wrongdoing. But if you don't say, but that stops with me, then you become the person that actually hurts others now. And now you perpetuate what you were a victim of. And I like recently I kind of fleshed that out personally and was just thinking like the decision not to heal is actually the decision to hurt. And so when you
hurt people.
So when you make when you avoid healing, you actually are actively choosing aggression and violence. And so like avoidance isn't even just like, no, I'm just not healing because I just don't want to handle it. It's like, no, you're going to hurt people that you love.
Even inadvertently.
You cannot, anger has to be redirected. It cannot be suppressed. And so you can redirect that anger towards, in light of that, I'm going to make sure my life is not like that. Or
that's good.
I'm going to try to suppress it, but then it's going to come out of my wife, my kids, my people, whatever it is.
That's good.
So kind of as we're closing up shop here, I'm just thinking about, we talk a lot about the orthodoxy and the orthopraxy in our organization that, the Patros Podcast is a ministry of Man Up, and Man Up's full name is Man Up and Go, and it has always been about action. I remember when I first got introduced to these guys, and it was nothing back then. It was just a bunch of guys. But what I was attracted to is that these guys were. It was not just talking. I had grown up in an era of like potluck suppers and pancake breakfasts, right? Like, and that was church, and that was like what you did. And I remember always thinking like, this is not living. Like, there's nothing wrong with a pancake breakfast. No, I like a good pancake breakfast. But I just remember thinking I didn't see men do anything. I didn't see them go. I didn't see them serve. I didn't see them do much of anything except for go to work and work way too long for somebody else for not enough money. Like, that's what I saw. That impacted me tremendously, right? And so when I went on my first mission trip and I saw these guys, like, man, these were – like athletes, they were type A, they were high performers, they were like, and they loved Jesus. I was like, yes, this is the people that I've been looking for, that I want to run with, that I want to do life with. So as we're like thinking about how do we be more of that and not the victim, right? Like, and looking at Jonah being like upset about how God is going to be merciful, and like. What is a takeaway that
like a call to action?
Because you guys have been talking a lot about some practical things here, but I want to really hone in on like, hey, practically, here's how you don't be a victim, or here's how you accept personal responsibility, right? Or here's how you accept that you caused the mess that you're in. Like, what are some like one or two practical things?
I think so. Let's just like maybe lean in. I think this could hit both. Like, sit down and write down in a journal everything about your life that's not what you want it to be. Everything. Like, let's go spiritual life, let's go health and fitness, let's go your marriage, your kid, whatever your context is. And then go line by line and ask this question. What am I doing to perpetuate this? So like, let's just take something. Let's say something that's all of our fault, right? If you're not in the shape you want to be in, that's on you. Yeah. That's on you, right? It's not your kid's fault because they wake up at 5 a.m. and go to bed at 10 p.m. Like, go find a time to work out, eat less chicken nuggets, whatever it is, right? So, like, what am I doing to perpetuate maybe my health that's not where I want to be, right? Okay, let's take it to the spiritual part, right? Like, what am I doing to perpetuate that? Because I think it's not like, am I doing anything? It's, no, I'm assuming I am doing something. Yeah. What is it? Yeah. So, like, if this is going on in my marriage and I don't like this, well, what am I doing? Am I not communicating well? Yeah. Am I not fighting fair?
Or even our single guys that are like I'm still single. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like what? It's like, oh, no, girl. No,
how are we handling this?
Nowadays, like, yeah. Well, what are you doing? Like, are you someone? Are you someone that? Yeah. Are you pursuing the Lord? Are you someone that like is not just seeing every girl in your life as another person that could be your spouse? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you like look at your life and wherever you are and just ask that question. This is what I don't like. What am I doing? I think that's a really easy thing because it's something you can like come back to, right? It's like not like a one-time project. Like, it's just like,
that's
hey,
good.
We're gonna come back to it over and over. Yeah. So I think that's a really, really practical thing. I think as well, I would encourage whoever that one person in your life is, could be a spouse, could be a really close friend, whatever, that knows you, like just to go to this like whole like ownership and, like not living as a victim. Like, I think asking them just pretty like directly, like, hey, what in my life is inconsistent?
That's good.
Right. One question I ask guys a lot, like I have like a list of questions. Like if I have guys over and sit around a fire at my house, I'm gonna fire one of these and just like get the conversation going. And one of the questions I ask those guys a lot is, what in your life is not taking you out now but could take you out later? So like, so like a friend is going to be able to, as soon as you go, hey bro, what's something like inconsistent about me? He's going to be able to tell you, yeah, bro, you got this anchor thing and it's going to take you out.
That's good.
Like, so I think like those are some like maybe practical things that I think guys could do. That again, perfect. You're incorporating other people. You're doing some like internal work yourself. Because a lot of it, again, let's expose it, let's get it out there, and then let's start to like deal with it.
I love that one too, because it's almost like you could admit something is wrong without really admitting. Because it's like, it hasn't taken me out yet, but it could take me out in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's soft pedal.
Let's handle it.
It's safer. Because here's the reality. Like if a guy's
that's the
like
60% thing we're talking about.
100%. It's like, because a guy can say like, oh, maybe like, I can see myself maybe having an affair one day. Well, let's double tap on that.
Yeah.
How are you doing,
if you can see it, that's
like if you can
that's
see
a problem.
It's because there's something going on, and he's like, let's just, again, doesn't mean that you're like texting a girl and you're going to meet with her tomorrow, but like you've got enough in your heart that goes.
You've identified it. Yeah.
Like, let me tell you, like let me tell you how I'm not answering that question. Like if someone asks me, like, hey, what could take you out? Like, I'm not going to say, you know what? I just think I have too much money. And I think with all this money I got, bro, I just could lose my soul. Want to know why? Because I'm not LeBron James.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't play
Another
it.
problem.
Like, I'm not. I didn't get a extension. Right. Shout out Ryan Day.
NIL wasn't
Shout out
around when I was
right?
at league.
Yeah. And so like, like I'm overly aware of like, well, this isn't me, right? So, but if I'm gonna tell you like, hey, maybe it could be an affair. Or like, hey, I got some anger issues. Like, I could pop off and really. That's because like I know like
You have
where
a
the lust
capacity
is
for
in my
that.
heart, or where
Yeah.
the anger is in my heart, or where like my pride, like whatever it is, and it just gets. Like, I think you asking that question to other guys, and then even just, I mean, you could ask yourself that too, because you can answer that.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
good.
And so
That's
That's
good.
solid, man. That's really good, man.
Yeah.
Pastor Chris, this
Good.
has been
Awesome.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
it's been great. I can't wait for part 2. When we
I was
talk
gonna
about
say, I
2020
feel like this
five
could be a
season.
Joe Rogan like 3-hour one if we needed to go there, you know,
Yeah.
because this is it's free flowing. So
Yeah.
hey,
Appreciate
we
you.
appreciate you. Thank
Yeah.
you
Of
for
course,
coming
man.
on.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you
for having me. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Patros Podcast, Masculinity Through the Bible, Jonah, the Reluctant Leader. And we'll see y'all on the last one,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
After this.
Lesson 10.
Yeah.